What is going on, guys? Welcome to the video. Welcome to part 2 of the redemption series. In today's video, I am going to be going through and recapping my off season. I'm going to talk about how the off season went, as well as what my plan is moving into this prep to make sure that I can bring an improved package to the stage. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. This year isn't about a trophy. This year isn't about a placing. This year is about proving to people that what they saw in 2022 was only a fraction of what I can be. 2024 is about the year of redemption. So if you haven't watched it already, I definitely recommend going ahead and checking out the 2022/2023 off-season recap that I did. I will go ahead and link that video in the description below. But basically the gist of it is that in my 2022/23 off-season, I ended up getting a little bit heavier and a bit fatter than I realistically should have and I realistically wanted to. I ended up getting up to about 225 pounds, with probably a significant amount of that being body fat. So I spent some time between February to July of 2023 bringing my weight down so that I could put myself in a better position to go into this off season, to put myself in a better position to start this prep. So I'll go ahead and actually throw up a photo of what I looked like at the end of my last off season. As well, I'll go ahead and throw up a photo of what I looked like at the end of this off season. As you can see, there is a significant difference there when it comes to body fat, body composition, and overall weight. As far as my weight goes, I started this off season at a weekly average of 192.2 pounds, and I ended up finishing this off season at a weekly average of 204 pounds. So as you can see, only gained about 12 pounds in the span of a 24-week off season. The original plan was to gain about 1 pound per week over the course of that 24 weeks, which would have brought my starting weight up to around 212 to 214 pounds starting this prep. But my body actually ended up processing the food very well. I wasn't doing a ton of cardio and my body was just cranking through the food basically. So I actually ended up only gaining about half a pound per week. So over the course of that entire 24 weeks, I actually only ended up gaining about 12 pounds, which made it so that there wasn't a large amount of this that was body fat as opposed to last year's off season. This was one of my main goals and one of my main focuses going into this off season was that I didn't want to get as heavy. I didn't want to get as fat basically, because it's just going to make your prep harder. That's the reality of it, is that if I would have done a prep last year, I would have had to lose 50, 55, 60 pounds in order to get in true stage condition for a show. Whereas now that I've gotten myself into a better position, I might only have to lose 25, 30, maybe 35 pounds in order to get in true stage condition this year. So here's a photo of what I looked like at the beginning of this off season, and here's a photo of what I looked like at the end of this off season. As you can see, not a huge change in body composition, but we can see that I look a little bit fuller, I look a little bit rounder. You can see some areas that I improved. I can definitely tell in my chest, my shoulders, my delts, as well as my legs, that those areas have improved over the course of this off season. So as far as things go body composition wise, I am very happy with where things are at and where I'm at starting this prep. I think that I'm in a very good position to start this prep and make this one of my best preps ever. So now diving into a little bit of my training plan, my nutrition, and my cardio, and what that is going to look like moving into this 2024 prep. So as you can see here, my training plan is pretty simple. Sundays are rest, Mondays are quads and calves, Tuesday is a chest focused push day, Wednesday is a rest day, Thursday is a back and hamstring day, Friday is a push day that is shoulder focused, and then Saturday is a pull day. So I'm not going to dive into each workout super in depth because I did cover that in the diet recap video that I did do. But essentially, most exercises are going to consist of 2 working sets. That might change over the course of this prep because obviously we have to think about fatigue management, we have to think about recovery as my body weight comes down, as calories come down, as cardio increases. There's all those different factors that we have to take into consideration. So we do want to make sure that we are not just hammering ourselves with volume that we can't recover from. Things such as like a deadlift or such as like a hack squat might drop down to only 1 working set because those are such high fatigue exercises. But as you can see here, this is what my quad and calf day looks like. This is what the chest focus push day looks like. This is what the back and hamstring workout looks like. Here is what the second push day, the shoulder focus day looks like. And finally, here is what my pull day looks like. So as you can see, it is nothing super special. It is about nailing down those basics, and that's something that I think is very, very important, is people change their training too much when they go into a prep. They think that they need to stop lifting heavy weights and start doing more reps with lighter weight in order to tone the body. But in reality, we want to continue doing what we did in order to build that muscle. So my goal going into this prep is trying to maintain my numbers in the gym the best that I can without obviously injuring myself and putting myself into too deep of a hole that I can't recover from. So I'm still going in there, I'm still trying to lift heavy, I'm still trying to either match or beat what I did the week before. Am I going to beat what I did the week before while I'm in a deficit while I'm doing cardio? Probably not, but if I can match what I did the week before and keep that going as long as possible, that is really going to help when it comes to muscle retention, and it's therefore going to help you hold on to that muscle when you are dieting down. So as you can see here from this little chart, this is kind of my plan going into this prep. One of the biggest mistakes that I made in my 2022 prep was that I basically just hammered myself into the ground for 16, 20 weeks, and it was in so deep of a hole that I couldn't crawl out of it. By the time I got to the show, it looked like I was out of shape, but in reality, I was just very fatigued. I was holding on to a lot of inflammation, and so it started to obscure some of those lines in my legs, in my chest, different areas like that. So the plan moving into this prep is that for the first 10 weeks here, I'm really going to push things pretty aggressively. So as far as cardio goes, at the end of my off season, I was doing 20 minutes, 5 days per week. Immediately going into the first week of prep, that got bumped to 30 minutes, 6 days a week. So that's a pretty aggressive increase when it comes to cardio, and already moving into week 2 of prep, cardio has now gone to 35 minutes, 6 days a week. And things are going to continue escalating like that for the first 10 weeks of this prep. The idea is that if I can have a higher rate of loss at the beginning of prep, losing anywhere from 2 to 2.5 pounds per week, in that remaining 8 weeks leading into the show, I can start to back off things. We can start to decrease cardio a little bit. We can start to increase calories a little bit so that I can dig myself out of that hole of fatigue so that my body can look nice and fresh. So things are going to be pushed pretty aggressively for these first 10 weeks of prep, and then things are slowly going to come back down as we go into that show around week 18 of going into peak week there. As far as cardio and calories go, currently cardio is at 35 minutes fasted in the morning, 6 days a week. Like I said, as far as fasted goes, it really doesn't matter when you do your cardio. I just prefer to get it done and over with in the morning, because the thought of me doing cardio later in the day, it ain't gonna happen. So I like to get it done early in the morning. So right now that is at 35 minutes fasted 6 times a week. But like I said, that's going to be increasing pretty aggressively. I'm in the middle of week 2 right now, moving into week 3. That's going to go to 40 minutes 6 days a week, and then probably 45 minutes up until that 10-week mark that I just talked about. As far as calories go, right now macros on training days are 225 grams of protein, 420 grams of carbs, and then 60 grams of fat. That is still a bit of a decrease from the peak of my off season. Peak of my off season was 225 grams of protein, so that hasn't changed. 525 grams of carbs, so carbs have already come down a little over 100 grams, and 65 grams of fat, so about a 5-gram reduction there. As far as rest day macros go, rest day macros are at 225 grams of protein, 320 grams of carbs, and then 75 grams of fat. Obviously, carbs are going to be a little bit lower on that rest day. Fats will be a little bit higher to continue digging us into that deficit. Steps currently are at 11,500 per day. During the off season, my steps were still right around between 9 to 10,000 per day, so a little slight increase there, and that will continue to progress as the prep goes on. As you can see here, up until week 10, every week is going to be a 5-minute increase in cardio, which again is going to be relatively aggressive, but I do want to push things a little bit harder at the beginning of this prep while I have a little bit more food, because 420 grams of carbs right now is still quite a bit of food, so I would rather push that bigger deficit in cardio right now so that at that 10-week mark we can start to bring things down. So up until 10 weeks, there will be a 5-minute increase in cardio per week. There will be a 75 calorie decrease per week, which is still relatively aggressive. It's pretty moderate, actually. It's not super aggressive, but over time that will add up. And then as well, I will add in 500 steps per week as well. So next week will be 12,000 steps, 12,500, and so on and so forth. And then after we have kind of hit that peak, like I showed on the chart there, moving into weeks 11 through 17, it'll actually be a 5-minute reduction in cardio per week so that we can start to drop off that fatigue, drop off that inflammation, as we go into the show. I will still continue to drop 75 calories per week moving into the show there, just to make sure that we are still in a big enough deficit. I might only do that to about week 16 as opposed to week 17. That'll kind of depend on where I'm at and how much food I feel like I need to feed up going into the show. And then as far as steps go, that will either be plus or minus 500 steps per week, depending on where cardio is at. If cardio is relatively low, then steps might be a little bit higher, whereas if, you know, cardio is still kind of moderate, steps might be a little bit lower. It's going to kind of depend there. But that is going to be the plan going into this prep for my 2024 show. I am currently a little bit over 16 weeks out. I'm about 16 and a half weeks out from the first show, and that would make me about 20 and a half weeks out from the second show as well. But I'm very, very excited with the plan that we have in place going into these shows. I think it's going to allow me to bring the best package that I ever have, with already being in better shape than I was starting last year's diet or even the year before that. Being in better shape body composition wise, as well as having this plan in place to mitigate that fatigue, to minimize that inflammation, so that I can show up fresh on show day. But I'm very excited to bring you guys this redemption series as well, where I go ahead and document my prep. This is something that I did regret not doing in 2022, especially considering that it was my first show. So I'm very excited to take you guys along with me on this ride. But if you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like on the video, as well as subscribe if you guys are new around here so you don't miss out on any content. Other than that, I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.